We do it every single day. We do it with our friends, in our families, at our workplaces, basically in every conversation or interaction we have with another human being. It surrounds us everywhere. We see it in books and in movies, in political debates. Communication is completely inevitable. With every syllable we speak comes potential. There is potential to create positive change and growth, or there's potential for an explosion and hurt feelings. It's the definition of vulnerability, but is the alternative of silence really a better option? If you were to rate your skills on a scale of 1 to 10, 10 being the best, how would you rate your ability to communicate? We do it often. We do it with our words that we speak, with our tweets and our texts, and even with nonverbal cues like our facial expressions or the way that we stand. Just because we do it often, though, doesn't mean that we're skilled at it. How is your communication pattern working for you? I know if I was to rate myself for most of my life, I'd probably linger around a 3 or 4, maybe a 5 on really good days. I was really terrified of rocking the boat or hurting other people's feelings, and so I embraced passivity as a comfort zone. I thought it was selfless to be silent. I was doing this to spare the other person's feelings, but as a result, I ended up really hurting myself. A lot of the things that frustrated me were small and simple. They could have been easily resolved with a sentence or two, but I let fear take over, and as a result, a lot of resentment built up. Even though I didn't want to hurt the other person's feelings, they often could tell that something was wrong, and the fact that I wouldn't share that with them led to greater strife in our relationships. But consider the opposite alternative that's also very extreme. I've had a couple friends who never hesitate to share their voice. They know exactly what they want to say, but they don't always know how to share it in the best way. They're always really well-meaning and make fantastic leaders. However, they often approach conflict resolution with a side of micromanaging and control. Sometimes it included raised voices, and in the most extreme cases, conflict resolution was punctuated with a slammed door and lots of tears. So what do you do in such situations? Do you feel like you know how to disarm a heated argument between you and a loved one? What about when you're faced with minor grievances, like the person didn't do their dishes or your needs aren't being met in the relationship? Do you have the tools to tell the other people involved? Conflict can be described as something as little as a disagreement. It might be you disagree about how the dishes should get done, for example. This is manageable, but it can also escalate into something as big as a fight. That's the yelling and the hurt feelings and the tears that I was talking about earlier. There's definitely an alternative, though. Conflict may have haunted my life for years, but it's completely inevitable, so it does us well to learn about it. Through a strange series of events, I decided to major in communications. It wasn't because I was good at it, but because I had that really good gut feeling that it was going to work out. I'm so glad I did, because this was some of the first education I received on how to deal with these conflicts and personal issues in my life. I learned that conflict doesn't have to be the scary, unconquerable beast, but when dealt with properly, it can be the grounds for fantastic growth. Not only that, if we have the proper tools, we can completely disarm our conflicts and strengthen our families and relationships. Unfortunately, many people like me don't have those tools. And it starts with listening. A baby starts developing its auditory skills within the womb, but throughout the course of life, the emphasis placed on listening gradually decreases. Except for the occasional "stop it" or "listen to me" spat by a parent, listening isn't really talked about. Although it's a skill we use the most in school, it's taught the least under reading, writing, and public speaking. I know that it's really easy to occasionally justify tuning a loved one out. You've heard the story 12 times before, you know exactly what they're going to say, or you're really stressed out about an exam, and so it just didn't seem important in the moment to listen. Other people are so excited to share their ideas on the subject that they can't wait, and they interrupt with their advice and their take on the subject. I've definitely been guilty of using some of these excuses, but regardless of the reasoning behind it, it all carries a connotative message that the person's message isn't important. But what's there to listen to in a world full of silence? Many people are like me and don't know where to begin in expressing their ideas and abilities. Perhaps they've been burned in the past or fear rejection in the present. Whatever their reason, it can be really harmful. This concept is called self-disclosure. It's vulnerability to share our personal ideas, beliefs, and experiences with other people. It leads to greater emotional intimacy in our relationships, and it can be really therapeutic for people to just unpack what they have. However, that fear that I talked about earlier can stop a lot of people from experiencing those really positive benefits. So what can be done? Again, it starts with listening. I know that it takes a lot of effort to listen to other people. I think that's a large reason why it is so neglected in our busy world. But as we make the conscious decision to listen, put away distractions like our cell phones, and spend time with the people in front of us, we will not only get to learn more about them and have greater connection with them, our relationships with them will blossom in every way. And if people struggle with self-disclosure like I did, that's totally okay. There's solutions for them too. One thing to recognize is that it doesn't have to happen all at once. I wouldn't share with a random stranger at my work or a customer at my work that my dog just died. That would be really inappropriate. However, a girl that I sit next to in class for most of the semester, I might start by telling her I'm from Magna and I like reading and writing, pretty trivial things, and I'll kind of judge how she's listening to me, if she's someone I can trust. And then I might go into a bit deeper things. I might share some things that kind of embarrass me, like I'm a huge musical theater nerd. And it's trivial enough that I'm really not putting things at risk, but I can also gauge her character. Eventually, once that trust is formed, I can start opening up about more important things, like my dreams and my fears. The beautiful thing about that is as we self-disclose to other people, they are more likely to self-disclose to us, and we have the opportunity to become the listeners. With this interchange, we are all enabled to build deeper connections and come closer together with all of the people in our lives. This is just the surface of the things I've learned this last semester. If you are interested in deepening your relationships through communications, I highly recommend you take a class next semester. CMST 2110 and CMST 1020 are both communication classes that also count for general education. One's a public speaking class and one's an interpersonal relationships. These classes are some of the most applicable classes I've ever taken. It's not something I'll just use a semester, but it's something I'll continue to use throughout my life and day-to-day life at that. Another program that's offered is called Healthy Relationships Utah. You can find them on Instagram and also on Facebook. They have excellent classes and programs that are offered free of charge through the USU extension to everybody. There's classes like how to avoid falling for a jerk or jerkette, couple links, and then a couple parenting classes. So whatever stage of life you're in, you can learn to deepen that relationship. And they also post a lot of really good articles on their social media that can help you stay informed and sharpen those skills in your life. And finally, once you've practiced communication, help other people learn to communicate. You might teach it to your family members, or you might even approach educators and school board members and talk about how this can be better taught in K through 12 schools. I remember in my experience, there was about a day or two that we talked about this in high school, but the cheesy hour video didn't really help me learn how to apply this into my life, And I just went on to failing after I took the notes and turned them in. There are solutions. And as we put our minds together and really listen to each other and share our ideas, we will be able to find those solutions. Remember, communication is completely inevitable. It surrounds us. What will you do to seize the potential poised in every syllable? What will you do to communicate, to instigate change? Thank you.